New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Welcome. It's great to have you back again, and I have such a treat for you today. Our guest today, always we have unique guests, but this one is way high on the unique meter. Today we have Reverend Karen Cleveland, and she is a safari host. Spiritual safaris. Is that cool or what? She's an animal connection specialist. She's a minister, of course. She's an animal communicator. She offers carefully curated transformational safari adventures for people who are ready to find connection and meaning in their life through safaris and wildlife all over the world. What I love about this minister is that she understands that consciousness is not the exclusive domain of the human race. And so she also has a podcast called Connectedness, where she teaches these principles from her evolved framework, which engage mind, body, and spirit to help all listeners begin their own journey back to their heart's dreams, as well as the importance of coincidences and synchronicities in life that bring us everyday energy, miracles, and magic. This is such a delight for me. Please help me welcome Reverend Karen Cleveland. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
I have said, for a year now, there are as many kinds of ministry as there are people on the planet, and I'm planning to get all of them in here. But yours is just, I'm so excited to learn about that because of how much it intersects with the work that I did for my doctorate, and you do that all the time. So tell us about how the safaris work. The idea of a spiritual safari just tickles me 6 ways from Sunday. That's right up there with a riverboat cruise.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I didn't plan it, as most things happen through spirit. Things just kind of navigate a certain way. And I first went on a safari with the idea of, I wanted to my entire life, of course, but I thought, okay, I'm going to take a bunch of pictures. I'm going to come back and share them. And, but while I was on safari and magic every day, something magical, one day more magical than the last. And I was like, I can't not share this with people. And I don't know what it looks like. I don't know how it works. And it's continuing to evolve. But it's fantastic. So I'm actually leaving in less than a month to take another 16 people on safari. And what we do though is so my background as an animal communicator. Excuse me, sorry about that. So and then also my experience as a minister and spiritual practices and connecting with the divine. People have the option, it's not mandatory, but to go through different exercises that I'm willing to teach them. I also provide journals that list exercises for them that they can do either in the morning before we leave or after we come back or while we're actually out looking at the animals. Because instead of it just being a drive to see animals, what if it was something more meaningful and profound for us? And what if those animals have messages for us? Or what if we just want to bask in their life for a little bit and connect with them and see if we can understand a little bit better what that's like, and that just by the way of what it is, I mean, it can't help but make you think about things a little bit different, and sometimes what you thought were your priorities at home maybe aren't such a priority after all, so it kinda makes you look at what's important at your life, I think.
Well, what I love most about what you do is that word connection,
Mm.
because that's the key to everything. That's what spirituality is. It's an awareness of infinite connection. So, could you talk a little more about how the connection with animals reflects connection with the universe?
Oh, sure. I think people well, I know a lot of people don't realize it because I'm gonna use some pets as an example just because it's easy to see, and then, take it out to wildlife and animals in general. So, let's say, for example, if a person is familiar with, being careful with our thoughts and our words and always saying what we want. When we're doing an affirmation, we phrase it in the way we want it. Or if we're doing a gratitude about how we want life to be, we phrase it how we want it. And the same is true with our pets. So if you have a cat who has not was using the litter box like they're supposed to, and you say to them, don't pee on the carpet, the image that's created is peeing on the carpet.
Mhm.
And just like putting out to the divine, to God, instead of saying something like, I love that I make $1 million a year. If you say, I don't like being broke, it just kind of reinforces the broke aspect. So that's the image that's created as being broke. So talking to the cat is creating the image of going on the carpet. And when I communicate with an animal professionally, and they can be anywhere in the world, it's done, not in person, but energetically, they're tuning into my pictures and my feelings, and that's what I'm tuning into from them as well. And so if we say instead, you know, "Go in the litter box, use the litter box, thank you for using the litter box," that's a better understanding for them than not going on the carpet. So we wanna make sure we always say what we want. And also be aware of our expectations because maybe when we walk around the corner going into the living room and we're expecting to see potty on the carpet, again, that's creating a picture and that's what the cat's picking up on. So, um, so it's reflected. So, what's our expectation? So we might say, "Thank you for making $1 million this year," but then our expectation is, "I don't know how to make $1 million. I'm never going to make $1 million." So if we tune into what our animals are doing and how we're approaching them, it can help us figure out, are we approaching the universe and how we want our ideal life to be in the same way? And then with the wildlife, it's similar. They don't interact with us that way. They don't know what the carpet is or what a litter box is or what dinner or going for a car ride is. But they connect, we can connect with them in a more, I guess, like, universal way. So they have these different, just like humans, just like pets, different archetypes, like the hero and the entertainer and the lover and the nurturer. That's true across all living beings, those different archetypes, those primary archetypes. So recognizing patterns in them and how they use them in their life. For example, the wildebeest. It right now, they're calling it the Great Migration, the Great Wildebeest Migration. It's a circular, it goes through Kenya, Tanzania, it goes around and around, and they are following their pull, they're following their intuition, and, if we can I almost forgot what I was gonna say about that, but if we can learn from them to follow our intuition, then, that's a great lesson because they know if they follow, they're gonna be provided for, and they don't question it, they just go with it. So there's more universal lessons and there's specific direct lessons that we can learn from the animals and how they reflect how we interact with just the divine in general.
And what I'm hearing you say is that the wildebeests are doing what they're doing because they have not forgotten that they have direct access to divine wisdom.
Exactly. Yeah.
We forget that on a minute by minute basis, I think, many times. But I love that. Now, I ask everybody to give me questions that they would like to talk about, but you gave me one that I absolutely love, and I'm going to keep it. I'm going to use it with everybody from now on.
Oh,
This is the first time I use this question because it's such a cool question. And here it is. What do you wish everybody knew?
yeah. Yeah, there's a lot I wish everybody knew. And I love this question, well, just as well, just saying it. I like to use it. So I wish people knew, one, that they don't have to struggle so hard every day to survive. I wish they knew that there were techniques and tools that can help them, because I've been down, I've been in the struggle so deep for years before things started opening up for me. And then I also wish that they knew humans are not unique in the way we interact with the world. So just like we're talking about the connection, connecting with animals, they possess a lot of the same abilities that we do. I think it's a language barrier primarily.
It is.
Just like in sometimes even today, but definitely in days past, when someone would come across a new people, and because they didn't speak the same language, they might have thought they were dumb or stupid or couldn't, function as well. I think it's a lot the same with animals, in that just because there's a language barrier doesn't mean they don't know a lot or know what's going on. I think that they know more than a lot of people give them credit for.
Oh, I think that's absolutely true. When I was studying, I took a course about consciousness in birds, and I I had heard this term all my life and never really thought about it. And that's when you call somebody a bird brain.
Mm.
That's actually a compliment.
Oh,
That's
yeah?
actually a compliment because birds are little tiny critters. So of course they have small brains compared to the size of our brains, but they don't waste any of it. They use the whole thing.
Oh,
And
wow.
and as a percentage of their body weight, it's pretty hefty. And birds can do things we can't even dream of doing. For instance, oh, I don't know, fly
Right.
in the dark, in the rain, at night. I mean, birds can do all kinds of things that people can't do. We think that because we can't understand what they're saying, they're not communicating.
Right.
And that's just not the case. It, it,
Yeah.
I learned that dolphins and whales will band together to help an animal of another species survive.
Yeah.
You
Isn't
know,
that
and
fabulous?
they're not the only ones. Land animals do that too. So I think you're right. That's why your ministry fascinates me so much. Is that I believe we can communicate with every living thing on the planet.
Mhm.
I've talked to all of them all my life,
Yeah.
and I believe they hear me. They
Yeah.
may only hear me through the part of them that hears the voice of God that's speaking through me, but they hear me.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
it's possible. And so that's why I wanted you to be here because I'm so excited about that idea. So could you, this is another one of the questions you gave me. What led you to realize that I got it from studying, from courses that I took, but what led you to realize the profound connection between humans and animals, and how has it influenced your daily life? How did it change how you live?
Uh, um, yeah, well, I wanna say, how did it change what I do? It changed, everything. I would say 15 years ago, had no special awareness that animals were any different. I mean, I was raised in a house where the pets had to live outside, and, my mom was from a farm, so animals were not a part of the family, I guess, when I was growing up. And it wasn't until my daughter said to me one day, we had a dog who was part of the family, but we had a dog and several events had happened. But one thing she said to me, because I would always tell her and the other kids to, Buddy wants you to do this or that. And finally one day she just stops me and she said, "Mom, how do you know what Buddy wants?" And I was like, "What? How do you not know what Buddy wants?" I mean, of course you know what Buddy wants, you live with Buddy, and so I really started thinking about it. It's like, well, why do I think I know what Buddy wants? And why doesn't she or the other kids? Why aren't they tuned into that? So I really started kind of looking at that and researching that and ended up taking animal communication classes and discovering that my first weekend class that it was not only possible, but that I was doing it. And so then reflecting back on my life, I saw times that, yeah, I definitely was in communication with these animals. I just didn't identify it like that. But then my animal communication, I guess, ability or yeah, I guess ability kind of grew along with my spiritual evolution as I started, becoming a practitioner, spiritual prayer practitioner, and, on to ministerial school. So these things kind of evolved at the same time. And so it's hard for me to separate them, but once I began to understand, and I think my first safari had something to do with it. I think being realizing that I was actually hearing an animal at one point had something to do with it, but I started to realize when you're in this flow with the animals, everything's okay. Everything's gonna be okay. No, it's not perfect, it's not sunshine and roses, but I guess it's perfect in the divine sense of the way. And so trying to, separate now, what's me, what's my life, what's God working in my life. I mean, my intention is to reveal God through the animals for people because I think that was kinda like my gateway a little bit, definitely the safari and definitely the animal communication, and it's all just kind of built from there. And, I don't actually know if that answered your question because now I'm not sure where we started, but
But let me ask you another one that flows out of what you just said, and that is, um, I think most people believe that dogs and cats understand them when they talk to them.
mhm,
But I don't think most people understand that all animals have consciousness, and some of those animals are so small that you don't notice them most of the time. How do you deal with things like um, there are frogs in South America that fit on my thumbnail,
yeah,
and I have a
yeah,
very short thumbnail.
yeah,
And I believe those are conscious, and my understanding is you believe that too. So
yes.
how do you perceive and understand the consciousness of those seemingly insignificant creatures, and how do you address people who don't believe that that's possible or don't understand that that's possible?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that don't believe it's possible, and I think I can only speak from my experience with them. So I'm not gonna try to persuade you necessarily into something, but I can speak from my experience of having had some kind of a connection and maybe telling a story um, or seeing what I observed and connected with in other animals. I, absolutely believe that every animal has consciousness. Well, even the trees and the plants and, everything has some form of consciousness. And again, I don't necessarily try to convince people, but I hope to show them um, through what I've learned and through different exercises. So there are exercises I might do, like, in my beginning, classes. So I teach some very beginning, what do we believe here? What at my church? And I will have them connect energetically with perhaps a chair or, the tree outside or something like that through this exercise, just to kind of plant the seed that there's more than we initially perceive sometimes. Um, and it's not always easy. I mean, there's several people I keep in mind when I'm approaching this this question with other people because they're my, I don't want to call them my haters, but they're the people that totally don't believe what I believe, and they're in my family. So I always know who my audience is, who it is that I need to try to convey this information to because they're right there in front of me all the time. So they're my inspiration.
And you mentioned that you communicate, you teach by storytelling, which is really what everybody does. I mean, every effective teacher does. Could you give us an example of one of the stories that you might use to explain consciousness or one of the stories that you would tell on a safari?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Um, so let's just so consciousness from the understanding of being connected to their divine, to God. So having thoughts, having emotions, and being connected to a divine source that speaks to them. So like with the wildebeest, understanding the instinct and intuition. And I also actually want to bring in the archetype. So when if I go out on safari and we're just sitting in the Jeep and looking at the zebras, the giraffes, whoever it is we're looking at, the lions, whatever we're looking at, we probably think they all look the same, because we're there for such a limited amount of time that we don't really get to know them like we do with our pets or even our backyard wildlife, and we might get to know our squirrels or raccoons or the birds in our yard. So from an initial meeting, we think everything looks the same. But if we were to be able to stay there for several days and follow the same animals, we would see them begin to interact differently, or we would see how they interact differently, and how certain ones are the instigators of mischief, and other ones are the caretakers of the group. And we can see this in a very short um, uh, we can see it, I guess, succinctly when wildlife has been, uh, what's the word, hurt or abandoned or something, and they get taken to a sanctuary to be cared for. And on the video cams, and the people that are working with them can tell you, this baby zebra or this baby elephant has really been, has really fit this personality type. So so we can see it when they are under direct observation. And like I said, we don't see it if when we just first encounter it, unless we begin to connect with it, but them, unless we begin to get quiet, unless we begin to get open, unless we begin to be grateful for any information we're about to receive, and to let the animals know that our intention is good, that we are honest and good. We bring no malice or have no ill intention with them, then we can begin to see and understand, I guess, if we're open. That's the other key, is having people that are open to a new idea. I like to suggest, so people that have dogs, for example, and are sitting on a couch one day, decide all of a sudden, you know what, I think it's a good time to take the dog for a walk. And so they get up to go get ready to go for a walk, and of course, the dogs know when you get your shoes on, your leashes, whatever it is. but when you're sitting on the couch, I suggest that it's probably your dog's idea.
Oh, I know it is. My dog comes and does this. When she wants to go outside,
Yeah.
she gets right up in my face and stares at me.
Yeah. And so when we have those thoughts at home with our pets, when we think, "Oh, I think I should, give the cat a treat," whatever it is, it's probably not our bright idea, but we've never been told or proposed to that our animals are sending us information, just like the animals on the plains, any of the animals anywhere are sending us information all the time. And like, so your dog is sitting there staring at you, and sometimes, y- y- it's like calling a busy radio station when we used to try to request songs or win a contest. It's busy, hang up, busy, call again. It's just nonstop. The mind is always so busy. So getting quiet and being able to think that our thoughts are not always our own thoughts. They don't originate with us, that the animals are, if you have 2 dogs or 2 cats, they communicate. You don't see them meowing back and forth or barking back and forth, but they're communicating with each other, and we can tune into that communication if we're aware and open to it.
Yep.
So, I mean, it takes some practice sometimes and some, I hate to say work, but it does take practice, just
Well,
like answered prayer, listening to God takes some
it does. It does. Now,
practice.
I've got a question that's not out of your questions because it just now popped into my head. But one of the things that I have, when I was a teenager, long probably before you were even born, um, my my group of friends, we would talk about what would you want to know if you met someone from another planet?
Mm,
What would be the first question you would ask? And my answer was, I'd want to know what makes them laugh. And I believe that animals, that humor is a sign of intelligence and consciousness. And I believe that animals have that. Um, so is that also your experience that animals have a sense of humor? I mean, animals play jokes on each other.
oh my
Animals
God.
consider,
Oh, yeah.
I've seen videos of animals doing really funny stuff, and I believe they were doing it on purpose to make somebody laugh, not necessarily to make people laugh,
Yeah.
but to entertain their family.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely. Jokester is such a popular archetype for the animals. And I have one. And she loves to she loves to play jokes. She loves to play jokes. So maybe she's not so much the laughter, but there's definitely entertainers, dogs that love to entertain, to learn tricks so that they can make you laugh. And sometimes they do it, to lighten the room up. Sometimes they do it just because it's fun. Absolutely, I agree with you. And I love that you think laughing and laughter and fun you know, is key to intelligence and stuff. I've never, thought of it that way before, but I think that's fantastic.
oh, good. I like to find out when I'm get some confirmation.
Yeah.
So here's another one. Um, I have noticed myself and have read also that violence for the sake of violence is pretty much a human thing,
Mm, yeah.
but it affects our entire environment. And one of the questions that you gave me was about the cycle of violence and suffering that affects all living beings and practical ways society can break the cycle and promote compassion towards all life forms. Compassion, I think, is a natural part of animal life,
Mhm.
not just human life, animal life. Like I said, the dolphins and
Right.
other animals, marsupials, a lot of marsupials do that too. And so I'm wondering what kind of practical ways do you suggest, what things that we could do as individuals and as a society to break the cycle of violence for the sake of violence and promote compassion across species.
Yeah. Thank you for that, because I think it's a big thing, and I don't think we're ever going to see the stop of violence in humans until we understand that violence towards animals is, just kind of perpetuates it. So I do believe that there's energetic vibrations to all of the, moods and how everyone is feeling, animals and people. And one of the things so my last dog, um, somehow got into some rat poison. And it was excruciatingly painful for me to watch him go through this. Now, we thought we were curing him. We thought he was getting better, but he wasn't getting better, it turned out. He ended up dying, like 2 weeks later after we found out. But, um, when I think about all the rats that are going through the same thing that he went through, and there are thousands of them. Now, I know we can't have rats running the streets, but perhaps there's a different way to deal with it than poisoning them and causing this suffering as a baseline in every community in the world almost. In our cities, that suffering level is present. So, depending on how sensitive of a person you are or, other people are, they don't even know that they're feeling it, or they might be feeling it, but it's not just the rats. So it's anything that we are doing, all this experimentation, it's a nonstop cycle for our baseline, um, happiness and vibration and, just our baseline, how we feel about life in general. And I think until we start to learn and perceive that what we are doing out there, is affecting us, it's directly affecting us and our ability to absolutely love life, nonstop. The other thing is when a person, when we allow, and understand this is coming from a person who did not always treat every living being nicely. Okay, I did lots of things as a child that I'm not proud of. But when we don't show let when we don't tell the child about, compassion and just allowing them to do things to animals because they're just animals, they're just bugs, they're just birds, they're just, snakes, they're just whatever. We have seen that some sociopaths start with animals and then they go on to inflict the same kind of thing on humans. I'm sorry, my quick drink.
Get a drink. There you go.
Um, and okay, where was I? Oh, um, and so like violence just begets violence. And I think to myself, how are we ever going to change how we treat the animals when there are people locking humans in their basement and treating them the same way? It's like some people say, well, you should treat animals better because they're so innocent. And it's like, well, you should treat people well too because they can talk and you should understand how they feel, right? So there's some things, that just don't make sense to me about how people treat other beings in general, human or animal. But I definitely understand that it's a slippery slope that once you start abusing or mistreating one kind of animal, it's easy to go on to another kind of animal, including humans.
I think there are two things that come to mind for me from what you just said. And one of them is that that this is one of the reasons I love quantum physics. All of life is vibration. Everything is vibrating. And everything we do causes a vibration that affects everything that exists.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I didn't learn in kindergarten, and I wish I had.
Right.
And the other thing is that part of that everything is vibration is that we're connected to everything. Nothing happens in a vacuum. No action I've ever taken in my life affected only me.
Right.
No thought I ever had affected only me. And education, I think, is the key
Yeah.
for and education, not just go to school in a brick building with somebody sitting in the front of the room with a blackboard. No, not just that kind of education. How we talk to our children.
Oh my
Education.
gosh.
How we talk to our pets is
Yeah.
education. How we interact with our environment, because we're educating the cells of our body, we're educating our
Yeah.
children, we're educating the people around us, we're educating the animals and the plants, and that interaction needs to be compassionate.
Mm. Yeah.
And compassion is not something I ever learned in school.
I
It
know.
needs to be one of I haven't been able to get her on here yet, but one of the focus ministers I most admire is Veronica Valles. She's in Texas, I believe, and her ministry is working with children in grade school, teaching them nonviolent communication
Yeah.
and meditation and connection and all of the things that we've been talking about.
Mhm.
There's only one of her, but oh golly, I am
Yeah.
so
That's so needed, isn't it? I mean, it's
yes, it really is. And so that's why I asked you that question. And now here's another one you gave me that I think is really interesting. Because it's something I hadn't thought about until I started studying this topic myself. And that's what are some of the greatest misconceptions about animals, I presume, that people hold, and how can we begin to dispel those myths?
Mm. Yeah. Well, some of the biggest, I think, misconceptions is that they have no thoughts or emotions. Um, when I first took an animal communication class, there were a lot of horse lovers in there or horse people. And one of them lived in a place where it was farmland. And she said, horses are so intelligent, not just like those slabs of flesh over on grazing on the hill. And I'm like, slabs of flesh? She was referring to cows.
Yeah,
And it's like,
I got
oh,
that.
you really think that? I was kind of dumbfounded that she actually thought, they were just pieces of flesh. So, uh, again, I think the process begins with being open to observation and i- not introspection, but just allowing information in and showing. So if there's a lot of videos on all the social medias about things like cows that play and pigs that play and how grateful and happy they appear to be when they're rescued and they see grass for the first time and that kind of thing. And I think if we can we just need to spread that message as much as possible. I mean, I can tell you what I have picked up from a cow, but if you don't believe that a cow, a person doesn't believe that a cow has thoughts or emotions, you might not believe me. But if I can show you, you know, something that displays, that they do have love, they do have joy, they do have grief. So it for some people, it might take visual proof, and it might be, if they have the time or the inclination, leading them through an animal communication session. Although what I have found is that people that don't believe it's true or it's possible, uh, don't really get a lot out of that. So I think it's gonna be visual proof for a lot of people out there just because, they need a lot to convince them that what they've been taught their entire life. So getting back to you didn't learn something in childhood or in grade school, I think we need to start younger with these messages that all life is, conscious, and all life has value, it's worthy of our respect. And just because we're human and we can do more things than, some of the animals can, doesn't mean we should.
Yeah. Well, yeah, just because we can do something doesn't mean we should do it. That's something that's absolutely true. And the tendency to do something just because you can is another one of those things that I think of as a human foible.
Mm,
Something that animals don't do, not because they can't do it, but because they're smarter than we are sometimes.
yeah.
Because they have enough sense not to do it. We have in our all right, I'll say it, our arrogance, believing ourselves to be the most intelligent species on the planet, we lose a lot, not just compassion, but what I call spiritual common sense.
Mm,
And one of the things that I think we need to do is to just remember that the planet is a finite resource,
yeah.
and so are we, and so are animals. Nothing is on this planet by accident. Nothing exists here that doesn't have a purpose and a function.
Right.
And if we could teach that to children, I mean, as parents and as educators,
Yeah.
if we could make that one of the paths that you can take in college, I think that might be, of course, one of my side gigs is the Global Heart of Peace, and world peace is a big deal for me. So everyone I talk to, I hear that. I hear
Yeah.
their connection to that coming in. So I'm going to ask you another question.
Sure.
We've talked a lot about animals and animal communication, but you're a minister.
Yeah.
I mean, we're here because you're a minister, and
Right.
I have to believe that as an animal communicator who's also a focus minister, you have to have some unique insights into animals and the magic of everyday life that help people find meaning and connection with the divine.
Mm,
We learn from everything, and since you have interactions with animals that a lot of people don't have, I want to hear about that. How have animals led you to understand spiritual truths? What is the magic of everyday life that has come from that?
mm, yeah. I
Nice
love
narrow
that.
question, right?
What's yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, so sometimes it's honestly as simple, and I'm sure most anyone who considers themselves an animal lover or a pet companion would agree that sometimes it's as simple as, a morning cup of tea or cup of coffee sitting with your cat or dog. Um, but I think that the difference is then also being aware to their feelings of it. What are they going through at the time? So yes, you're enjoying it. You're watching the sunrise. You're out on the deck. Here I am painting a perfect morning for at least me, and it's perfect for me. Is it perfect for my animal? What is it that they are going through that they might want, that they might, if they're sitting there content and happy just sitting next to me, then I think things are, probably just fine with them too. But to be open to what is going on with them. And so I had an experience one time. It was Christmas Eve, and a client, I don't know if she had been a client before this time, but she called me and she's like, I can't even remember if it was a cat or a rabbit now. I think it was a rabbit. Um, she's like, the rabbit doesn't feel good. I don't know what's wrong. What do you think I should do? And I do get these kind of calls a lot. Sometimes the answer is take them to the vet. But so I checked in with it was a rabbit. I checked in with the rabbit remotely Christmas Eve. I felt like a real martyr at the time. And and the rabbit was like, "You know what? I I am good." So I've later named this, or I didn't name it, someone named it for me, but call this period of time hospice because the animal was just in a complete state of bliss being with the people. And the person told me, um, so I told so what the animal said is, "I just want to sit with them all night long. I just wanna be with them. I love this. I'm not feeling good necessarily physically, but I'm feeling good emotionally, and, I just wanna be with them." So then the person, the next day told me that she just sat on her lap all night long and passed peacefully, just sitting on her lap. And that knowing that that is a possibility, that the animal knows its time, wants to spend time with the humans. So many times, it's not until our animals get sick that we start paying attention to them. And I know I'm kinda going sideways from your question, but I'll come back to it in a minute because this story came up for some reason. Um, but we don't start paying attention to them until they're sick. And then sometimes that means they rally and if they were on a dying path, they then rally. It's like, "As this feels great. I wanna stick around for this. I love this attention. I love this love. I love this kind of thing." So, what if we could pay that much attention to them all the time? And what is the learning in it for us? So, I like to have people either journal or meditate on these things that are seemingly just a normal part of life. I just heard something in my closet. I think there might be a cat in there, but I'm not sure. Um, what if we could just, like I said, either journal or meditate, whatever your thing is, even painting, drawing, um, on on the aspect of the what we just picked up from the animal. So, if we're sitting out on the deck in the morning drinking our coffee and the tea or whatever, and the animal is beside us, um, what's their reaction to what we're doing, and how are they interacting with the world around them at that time? Because I think we miss a lot. So I think a lot of introspection and not downloads, but information coming from the divine through meditation or journaling can spark our own transformation. So what do I think not what do I think, but how can I learn from how my animal is interacting, and how does that apply to my life? And how can I move forward in a better way from this? So there's not always, I don't think, straight answers. Um, just like, you know, my cat told me to go to the store today and run into an old friend. It's not always a direct answer like that. But maybe sometimes it is. Maybe sometimes when we're journaling and we get some insights we never expected, um, that's how it happens, you know? Spirit is unpredictable.
It is, and one of the things I love about my little townhouse is that I have a prayer room. And in the morning, I go in the prayer room, and my cat never goes in the prayer room, but my dog always. She has a pillow on the floor beside my rocking chair.
Mm.
And when I'm in my office, she goes next door and meditates in the prayer room. And what I've noticed is that when I'm actually meditating, she's on the pillow.
Mhm.
But when I finish meditating, a little dinger goes off, and I finish meditating, and I reach for a book. She hops up in my lap and curls up in my lap, and just kind of vibrates
Oh.
while I read my daily whatever I'm going to read. She and then I have when I get to the part where I'm done my meditation and I've done my reading and I'm going to pray, I'm petting her while I'm praying. And when I'm done, I go, I say, all is well. And she knows that I'm done praying and she hops down and goes to do whatever she's going to do next. So
That
I
is
know that
so
her
sweet.
vibration is affecting my
Yeah,
vibration. I mean,
yeah,
it's like if you drop two pebbles in a pool of water, that
yeah.
each one makes rings come out and out and out. But when they expand, they don't cancel each other out. They make a bigger circle.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
so that's really cool.
So let me ask you a question. Are you either reading the book out loud or praying out loud for your
No,
dog?
no, no. I'm
So
just reading silently to myself, and
okay.
she's just sitting there with me. I have done it out loud when I had someone here with me, and she seems to like that too.
Yeah, I
So
was gonna say some animals really like it like to be read too. So,
yeah, well, she likes to watch TV while I knit. She
uh-huh.
sits in my lap while I knit and watch TV. We're coming up to time, and there are some questions I want to ask you that I ask all my guests. So I'm going to shift
Okay.
our direction a little bit. I've got 4 questions I ask everybody, and the first one is, um, I think you've pretty much answered it, but I want to give you a chance to
Sure.
fill it out a little bit. How does what you do as an animal communicator and a safari leader and a minister, how does that encourage, enhance, embrace, pick your own verb, conscious evolution?
Mm. I think the more people that can contribute to, consciousness evolution, um, the the not the faster it goes, but the better it goes. So there's a lot of people that come on safari just because they've always wanted to go on safari. And then when they discover my background, perhaps, because they don't always know if they're a friend of a friend of a friend or something. They don't always know what I do. And so when I am allowed to present this whole new idea of connection to them and help them raise their consciousness a little bit, hopefully, at least to propose this new idea. I think that's how it starts. And I think the more people that we can just propose these new ideas to, that's going to affect and uplift, everyone, everywhere.
Excellent. Okay, now this sounds like the same question, but it's just a little bit different. How does what you do as an animal communicator and a minister and a safari leader promote, enhance, encourage, unveil, pick your own verb, world peace?
Mm, world peace. I think understanding. So, one of the things, and we actually haven't talked about this at all, but culturally, going to Kenya or any of the countries, there's a lot of misconceptions about what it's like there. And until a person experiences it themselves, and comes to terms for themselves, I mean, I had some serious questions I had to ask and answer myself my first time because it was my first time in a country that didn't have electricity and running water everywhere, that kind of thing, and I didn't even know I didn't even know what I guess, how to proceed with that information, and so I had to ask myself a lot of questions and answer, my own questions. So, bringing those stories and that to other people as well, once we understand, I mean, they're very happy people. Americans are not right, we're just different, and trying to help people understand we're different, but we're no better, no one is better or worse than anyone else. I think that helps contribute to world peace.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Okay, so here's the third one. This one you might want to close your eyes for. This is the toughest one.
Oh boy.
10 years from now, presuming that every single thing, every aspect, every experience, every event in your life goes exactly the way you want it to go, what does your ministry and your life look like?
Hmm. It looks like, um, that's such what a great little dreaming experience real fast. It's seeing thousands, millions of people that have a different idea about animals and global consciousness. And it's about me speaking on stages. It's about, me helping people connect directly with animals, and it's about people connecting with each other with people um, that have the same ideas of them, that love animals. So one of the things I believe I'm here to change the way the world thinks about animals. So that's part of my mission, and I hope that in 10 years the world thinks differently about animals.
Oh, me too. I'll take an order of that. And here's the last question. It's the easiest one. Will you come back?
Yeah, are you saying come back to the show or come back to Earth? I'll
No,
absolutely
I'm
come back.
saying come back to the show. I'm saying come back to the show because you're already back to Earth. Now, the first opening I have is July 2nd of next year. Can I pencil you in?
Wow. Yeah, that's fantastic. Congratulations on all your people, all the success. That's wonderful. Yes, July 2nd, put me
Thank you.
down.
I will send you a reminder when we get a lot closer to then, but I don't let people get away because I know you've got a lot to say that you haven't got around to saying yet, and I want to hear all of it. And so do my guests, my
right.
viewers. So hold on just a second and let me check one thing.
Okay.
Oops. Because I forgot to look it up. And that is who's going to be here next week. And that is, I don't know yet because that person contacted me and said she couldn't be here. So it'll be a surprise. I have a couple people I'm going to ask, but I don't know for sure who it'll be. So come back next week and get surprised. You know, we only have great guests on this show, and they always teach me something I didn't already know. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
Amazing, amazing. You will do amazing things. Amazing, amazing. You will do amazing things.
On behalf of everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. Please visit and contribute at www.ntmedia.org/donate. New Thought Media Network, come be you. And please like, share, and subscribe.